What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your main man, Juggernaut of multi-platinum production team Arkatech Beatz. Shout out to everybody that's jumping into the live stream. We're doing a tutorial tonight. Really on doing drum music production tutorial on taking drum breaks and turning those into new drum patterns. I think this is something that a lot of producers struggle with per se, because you may hear some dope loops, and some people try to refrain from using the loops because they're afraid to chop them and reprogram them, or having issues with trying to incorporate them into their samples in terms of slowing it down or getting it to the right tempo and BPMs and all those sort of things. So I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how I do it in terms of just getting the samples and chopping them up and making them into my own situation. And this is just to help you to variate your sound, because sometimes you might have a kit and you have go-to sounds, and then if you keep going to your go-to sounds, that after a while all of your tracks and patterns start to sound similar, right? And when you're sending out like large packs to people who maybe beat packs that are over like 10 tracks or something like that, then you start to see that all of the tracks are starting to sound sort of the same. So I wanted to do that. So shout out to my folks that are in the Future Producer Society, right? That's the school.com community where my producers are learning the music business. And if you want to learn the music business and also more tutorials on how to do production and some tips from me, then we'll be able to do that. And if it's your first time here, make sure that you like, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure that you are following us and you're joining into the group. And basically, a little background on me as well. I've produced for some of the most prolific artists of our generation. Big Pun, Nas, Prodigy of Mobb Deep, Jadakiss The Game, Killer Mike, Freddie Gibbs, Max B, French Montana, and so many others, right? So let's get into the tutorial, and I want to just kind of break down what I have going on here. And I have some sounds inside of my MPC, of course. And I want to start with this loop here. Right? So you kind of hear it. It's kind of straightforward. Right? It's kind of straightforward. And, I've downloaded this sound from Splice, splice.com. If you do not have a subscription to that, I think it's very necessary for producers to have a subscription to a royalty-based service so that you can always use sounds and loops and things like that without any hassles. Splice is the place to do that. Make sure you hit in the link in the description to make sure that you can take a look at what that looks like for you, right? So the cool thing about when you download stuff from Splice, right, and if you have an MPC, of course, that it's synchronized into your MPC as far as your accounts is concerned. What makes going into Splice and using sounds from Splice really dope is that you're able to have all of the information that you need on your screen, right? So if you notice here on the screen, it's going to have the name of the sound, and it's going to have the BPMs, right? And the first thing that you want to do, especially on your MPC, you want to make sure that you're setting your BPMs here to match whatever is listed inside of the name of the sample. And I tend to use BPM sync, and I tend to use warp, and that helps me to be able to move the sound up and down in terms of BPMs if I need to change the speed or the tempo of the beat. So right now, say for example, it's at 80, and if right now, because I have that warp and that BPM sync engaged, if I move it up to 100, you see what it does? But what it also does is it also starts to create artifacts, right? Because now what it's doing is it's actually stretching the sample. And that can create a little bit of a problem for us if we're trying to go really slow on the beat. So let's go down real quick. Wrong one. Right. Now, depending on how clean your sample is, it may not distort as bad, but it just kind of depends. So what I want to do is I want to set this at 75, and I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go into sample edit. And what I like to do is I like to just go into the trim, click that, and then because I already know what the BPMs are, you could either go through the threshold, right? And the threshold is going to basically make cuts based on the wave sound, on like where you see the wave going up. It'll make cuts on that just based on the threshold amount that you turn it to, if you notice. So what it'll start to do, if I turn it down, it'll give it more cuts. And you see it'll cut for every single wave. And I don't like to really do that because I like to kind of just use the 16 pads. That tends to give us more cuts than I really want to deal with. So you can go to regions, right, which is going to basically cut the sample equally in 16 parts, kind of across. Or you can go to BPMs, which will probably give you about the same thing, right? So for us in this illustration, we'll use BPMs. Just for the sake of this illustration, we'll use the BPMs. And then what we'll do from here is you can link the slices, which means if I change the start and end point, it'll bleed over into the next pad. So right. So if you have it to link, meaning the end point of this will link to the start point of the next sample. So that's something that some people like to play with. I kind of don't like to play with it like that too tough, but I'll show you what I do in a minute. So what we're going to do here is we're going to now take this, we're going to hold on our shift button, we're going to convert this, and we're going to convert this to a new drum track. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use non-destructive slice, and then we'll press do it. And what this will do is this will create us another drum track that has all of the drums in it. Right. So now that we have that going on, I'm going to go back to sample edit. I'm going to take off this link slices button, go into my program edit. And what we're going to do now is now, I only need a few of these things, right? I need a hi-hat, I need a snare, right? I know for sure that there's an open hat at the end, so I want that for sure. All right, I'm gonna join the auto saving. So we want this for sure at the end. We want the open hat for sure. So we're gonna just kind of we're gonna use a sample edit button, and we're gonna get this here. All right. And then what we might do here is we might turn off the instead of it being one shot, we'll turn it into a note off. I'm sorry, note on. Right. So then I can trigger it and kind of cut it off at the end, right? Typically with those type of sounds, we like to do that to make it cut off, right? All right, so let's make sure that that start point is good, and we want to just, we want to take a real good look at the wave, make sure we're right at the beginning. All right, cool. So now what we want to do is we want to go into our other sounds. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically just make sure that this is all set up at 75. I'm going to turn on the warp feature for each pad. And it's really up to you to try to make sure that your cuts don't have any artifacts at the end. And then what we have to do, we're going to make sure our tempos are good. So we're going to put all the tempos at 75. And let's do that. Apply it. Go to the next one, 75, apply it. Not bad. Now, of course, there are always faster ways to do this. That's just the way that I do it. You know what I mean? So I don't have a problem with taking the extra step to make sure everything is where I want it to be. Yeah, apply. Right. We're gonna press do it, and it's all good. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna isolate these sounds now. We're gonna take the first one. We're gonna be our kick. It has a little bit of a hi-hat in it. Probably cut off that hi-hat. I want to get as close to that hi-hat. Give us a little bit of a tail. A little bit of the hi-hat in it, which is not really a problem. We just wanted to try to make it clean as possible to not have any if you notice here, these snares sound slightly different. Alright, so you have to determine if you want to keep which one you want to keep, you know what I mean? You have to determine that, which one sounds better to you. One just sounds like it's slightly tuned down a little bit, just by a little bit. But sometimes it's just, sometimes in a real drummer situation, it just kind of depends on where you hit the drum at. It might give you a different sound, you know what I mean? On where you hit it. All right. This is giddy up. We'll leave it in a little bit. We just want to make sure that this thing is, and this is just part of the process, man. It's like a little bit. try to get some. We're gonna try to get the hat in here real quick. All right, let's try to do that real quick. Get the hat going real quick. So let's start to reconstruct this thing. Now, currently we have it on mono. This is polyphony, where you kind of this will tell you the system. This will tell you how the system will allow you to how many sounds you can play at the same time. So mono means you can only play one sound at the same time, and each pad will cut off each pad. So what we probably want to do is we want to probably get to about maybe like 2, so that I can kind of trigger the hi-hats, or we can do it 2 different ways. Well, the way that I like to do it is I like to leave everything on mono per se, and then how I like to try to take it is I already have my main track. I like to just copy this track, and I like to break it out. All right, so this might just be my hats. All right. Now some people like to just program any one time here. There's no problem in doing that. I just sometimes like to break it out. I just do it the old school, right? All right. So let's get the hats in real quick, and let's make a sequence. And we're gonna change this BPMs to 75. Right. Now what we can do now from here, we're gonna copy this, and we'll name this the snare. Right. So we're just copying the program over into a new track. All right. So let's do that. If you notice, I'm using the 2 different snares. All right. I'm gonna copy this over. I'm just gonna turn this into the open hat. We'll program it in real quick. We're going to copy another track and turn it into the kick. Right. Ask him what up. All right, let's get some of this kick down real quick. Shout out to everybody jumping into the live. I'm sorry, I'm just like so tied into this. Here trying to asking what up, Kaz, what up, JB, what up. All right, so now if you notice, right, the kick, I have a kick doing with a giddy up on it. We wanna make sure that this is truncated properly, right? Because what we don't really want it to do, because it has it's ending funny. You hear it cutting off. So now we're gonna do we're gonna add one more kick in it. Let's use this kick here, because it's isolated. And sometimes some of the kicks, if you notice, some of the kicks are tied together and it goes with a boom boom from the loop. We want to try to find a kick that's actually isolated so that we can have a little bit more to play with. And it's just a matter of learning, which part of the pattern to pull out of. You know what I mean? Because some guys will give you a lot to work with. It's some kits, and some guys won't give you enough to work with out of some kits. And look, I want my producers to understand that you're always on the hunt for sounds. Like you're always on the hunt for sounds. Like if you're not on the hunt for sounds, you're doing yourself a disservice. You should always be looking for sounds. You should always be looking for samples. You should carve out time to go through patches. You should carve out time to go through sound modules. I'm not sound module, but VSTs and different sounds, and making notes as to what sounds good. And the thing that I also like about Splice is that Splice helps to educate you in terms of what sound to use, right? So you may say, well, damn, I want a sound, but I don't know what the name of it is, or I don't know what this is, or I don't know what that is. And part of the reason of going through those things is so that you can learn, like this is what this sound does, this is what this sound is, and so forth and so on. Right? So you're definitely like, you have to try to find different sounds and try to find different ways to kind of get your stuff going. You know what I mean? So let's add this extra kick here. Let's add this kick in real quick. Do it again. One more time. All right. And if you notice it, Let's get into this real quick. Ready? Add the kick in there, right? All right. And then what we'll do is now something that happened to us in the beginning when chopping up drums. Like we're doing capital punishment. I think I told you guys that we're doing big pun capital punishment, where we used the drum loop along with the sample. Pun didn't like that. We had to go back, chop up the sample. I'm using the ASR at this time, and it was sounding very rigid, right? In terms of the way that the drum sounded. And the thing about the ASR is that the ASR doesn't have waves. The ASR has numbers. So everything you have to truncate by number. You don't get to truncate by wave. You know what I'm saying? So, and then also I'm using a keyboard, right? So I'm using a keyboard, and sometimes with the keyboard has, it's a weighted keyboard. It has a sensitive situation. So it doesn't like trigger all the way when you press it, right? So it's something that you have to kind of learn. That you have to truncate your drums tighter if you're playing your drums and you're sounding like especially when you're chopping drums and you see that it's not feeling the way that it's going. It's always going to be about how tight did you truncate your drums. Did you chop them too much? Did you leave too much air in the beginning? Did you leave too much air at the end? And that's always going to be the difference maker between how your drums sound, especially when you're cutting out from drum breaks. And then we can also go into the envelope, and we can also change like the endpoints and the decay of some of these sounds, right? We can make it fade a little bit, right? So now that I got that going, now it's the fun part. So now what we do is we want to make these drums our own, right? Let's go into the EQs, let's go into the filters, let's start playing with it. You know what I'm saying? Let's beef up the sound so that it sounds like it's ours. Yeah, because we took a drum loop, but we want to make it sound like it's ours. So the way that we do that is we EQ them, we put them through signal processing, we filter it, so that it can, we may tune it to make it kind of feel like it's yours. You're trying to now make this sound feel like what you want it to feel like. You know what I mean? And this is how you take drum loops and you do something to them that can't be replicated. All right, so now I'm gonna go into my hi-hat. And if you really want to get intricate with it, what you could also do with your hi-hats is wherever where the drum is hitting, you could actually take out that hi-hat. All right, so let's say, for example, you hear the first hi-hat is a hi-hat inside of the kick drum. Because we don't want it to double up, we could actually just remove it. You know what I'm saying? So we can remove it because you don't need it, right? or we could lower the velocity on them, which is probably a better play, right? Because we already have drums there. The drum already has a note there, so we can highlight the note, and then we could just change the velocity and bring it down a little bit. If I can get the note to follow my finger, because my fingers are big. There we go. I'm gonna play a little bit with this hi-hat. I'm gonna bring the overall velocity down to maybe like 80, about 70, about 75. Then we're gonna go to the open hat. We're gonna bring that down to about a little under 75, about 65. Then we're gonna go back to the snare, and with our snare, we're gonna add a little bit of a reverb on that to get that to have a little bit more dynamics along with an EQ on it, right? But we're gonna put a parametric EQ on it. We're going to, what we're going to do here? We're going to do thicken. All right. Now this gives it a little bit of too much low end. We don't want to have too much low end on it. Want to be crispy, you know what I mean? Also, yeah, I just changed the tune of the snare, but I don't really like how that sounds. So I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to go back into the effects, and I'm going to add in a reverb. And most likely I'll use the spring reverb. Bring it down into the mix a little bit. All right. Now that I got all of that going, remember to save your work. So now look where we started from. We started from this drum loop. All right, now we're to this. Cool, right? So now all we got to do now is find a sample, which I already have, right? We look for a sample at the same tempo. See, this has a little air in the front of the sample. point is making it fall off. We gotta get it closer. Program it in real quick. First, let's double up the sample real quick. Let's make it into 4 bars, and let's trigger it again. At the 2 semitones. Bring it down in the mix a little bit. We notice that the key is B2, right? We want to make sure that we're going to pad performance, and we want to make sure that that's B2 is B minor as well. And I like to use chromatic because it kind of helps to map out the keys a little bit better for playing things along with it. So if I wanted to add in a bass line, I can. quick. Did that wrong. Do one more time. Now we're gonna change the octave. You can also now that you have your drum break in already, now you can go back to your own drums, right? You go back to your own drums, and you can add under it to beef up a kick, or you could double a snare, put a clap on snares, and this is how we really take it now, from taking the drum loop to really making it yours. You know what I mean? So. tricky. So let's go back to what we did. We can still bring these hats down a little bit. They might be a little loud. Also, we can add some effects to the hat to make it carry over a little bit. Just a little bit of reverb. And all of this stuff is just to kind of color it and play with the ear. Just try not to make it too noisy. Let's go back over the steps, right? So what we started with, remember how we did this now. We started it with the drum loop, right? Which was then we went into our sample edit, right? We went by BPMs, right? And it gave us 16 notes. We then took that, we converted it, non-destructive slice, converted it until we got here, which is another track, another drum track with all of the stuff on it, right? Right. We went back into the sample mode. We unlinked the slices. Right. Now what we did is we truncated the sounds that we wanted. So I got a lot of click on that. Well, actually, we're not using that, so I don't even know why we're talking about. Because what I did is I copied it. So once we copy it over here, it's a separate sound to itself. So once we copy it to a new track, we don't got to worry about that, right? And I need to take that out, actually. Let's undo that again. Hold on a second. Let's go back. Not sure why I did that just now. Let's fix it again. Oh, I know why. Because I did I did this to it. I added a decay versus take out the hi-hat altogether. Let's take out that hi-hat altogether, and then we'll go back in and do the decay. Because it had that little click at the end. So we'll do a decay to get that out of there. All right. That's wild. Hold on a second. some reason when I changed the decay on one, it changed it. It flipped everything. I don't know what it was doing, but I had to undo it just now. It's a while. Beat now. Let's name the beat as Midnight Run or Midnight Drums, either way. And then we'll come back to it to I guess, sequence it up and get us where we want it to be with it in terms of like our song mode and stuff like that. But yeah, it's something that I encourage guys to do in terms of, I encourage you to take drums and try to chop the drums, make them into your own. I think everybody has this thing where it's like, let me program, right? And look, we could have done it a myriad of ways, right? We could have actually. So just for another illustration, I'm going to take this. I'm going to copy this sequence to an unused sequence real quick, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute these drum tracks, right? I'm going to mute this kick. I'm going to mute this snare. I'm going to mute this hat. And then I'm going to mute this hat here again. I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to leave the main drums chop alone. And I'm going to go to the drum loop track that I had by itself. Right? I'm going to program it in, right? And now what I could do is, because we've chopped it up, right? I got a chop here. I could always I could actually add in those other drum parts from the cuts into the loop, you know what I'm saying, on top of the loop, you know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily have to reprogram the whole thing. I could just add my kicks back in or double up my snares. You know what I mean? So like you could play it, you could play with it however you want to play it, whichever way is easier for you. If you want to reprogram it, you reprogram it. If you don't want to reprogram it, you can just take the snares and the individual hi-hats and you can play with it a little bit, vary it a little bit. But this is to kind of just make things go a little bit faster, so that you don't have that if you feel like you're programming the drums and it's still not sounding right, then just go back to the loop. You know what I'm saying? And then also, for example, with this particular loop that I'm using, right? And this is the main loop. Where's it at? Right. I can always go back into my splice, go by BPM 75, and pick another loop. So if I don't like this loop, say for example, if I don't like the loop, right? Right. I'll fix that real quick. All right. with the pad mixer real quick, or pad mute. Right, and then I could do right. If I don't like that particular sample, I'll use another sample, right? You see where that's going? Let's go. Let's add that back in. Let's see how it sounds. That's me just using my drum loop, right? I'm gonna take the drum loop out. I'm gonna mute that drum loop. I'm gonna bring back in the drums that we did from the cuts, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Like you have so many options. You know what I mean? But you see what I'll be saying when I'm like, yo, like guys make it too complicated, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you gotta go in and you just try to put these things together, try to find the sounds, try to find the things that go better. If you think about it, right, you would think that because both samples were in the same, key and or tempo, that they would go equally as well with the drum kit, and it really doesn't. You know what I'm saying? One actually goes better in the groove than the other one does. But that's for you to train your ear to get us to that point where we know, okay, these drums go better with this type of melody or this type of sample sound or these types of sounds, or the sounds of these drums sit better in the music bed than the other ones do. So these things are important. It's like when we're choosing the drums, it's saying, okay, do these drums sit well together with the rest of the instrumentation? It's not just us programming the drums the right way, because we can program everything on the grid, right? It sounds like how it's supposed to sound, but at the end of the day, how are we getting it to sound all together, right? Is it making it all sound like it's part of the same thing? And my goal sometimes when I'm using samples is just to try to make the samples in the drums almost seem like they're one. Right? Like, I don't want you to feel as if I took the sample and I just did what I did to it. You know what I mean? As far as putting drums on it, I want it to feel like they were all part of the same instrumentation in the same session, even though it wasn't. Stone Cold, what up? So, that's going to be, I would say, the conclusion of this particular session. If you're a producer, make sure that you're signing up with us at the Future Producers Society. at school.com. Make sure you're checking us out over there. I'm building something over here where we're trying to get new guys in. We're trying to show people music production, music business, music publishing, copyright, all that other good stuff. Make sure you guys are on that Max B in French Montana, Coke Wave 3.5 out now, Narcos. Look out for our music or Max B's new album coming out, $1 Million Baby 4. Make sure you're paying attention. You know what I'm saying? We're getting it done, in real time, and I want people to realize like, this is where we're trying to what we're trying to accomplish with this. We're trying to get folks into real things and doing real stuff. So, we're gonna make it do what it do, But until next time, y'all, man, it's like after almost 1:00. I meant to get on a little bit earlier, but I had to take care of something. But in any event, peace out. And until we get into the next one, I'll holler at y'all. Be safe. This will remain up on the YouTube platform for a few days. And then it will be exclusively into the portal for the Future Producer Society. You know what I mean? So y'all be safe. Later.